It's Christmas time again in the studio, and I tell you, like, you're not going to be able to peel this smile off my face because I have the man, the myth, the legend with me, Bobbito Garcia. This man absolutely needs no introduction, but let me just list off a couple of unsigned artists that he got a chance to be able to break and help them to be able to come into the stratosphere as far as hip hop. And if you're a hip hop fan like I am, if you're around that 50 age, some of you aren't admitting it at all. But if you are and you were around the golden age of hip hop, this is the voice. This is the legendary voice of hip hop. And we want to thank him. This is like spending time with the Smithsonian today of hip hop. It's incredible. So listen to a couple of these names: Nas, Notorious B.I.G., Wu-Tang Clan, Big Pun, Eminem, Fat Joe, DMX, the Fugees, Big L, and many, many more. I don't want to waste any more time because this man's time is so valuable. So please let me introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bobbito Garcia. Why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Wow.
There we go. There we go. Hey, Bobbito's book.
Quite an introduction there, bro. I feel like I'm on a late night with Jimmy Kimmel or something.
Hey, man. And I love the fact that I told you that we were going to go live. I think, did I tell you last night or did I tell you this morning?
You told me yesterday, you're like, oh yeah, looking forward to seeing you live. And it, most of the press that I've done for my memoir, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong, in the last few months has all been pre-recorded. So it's like, oh, like live, like, oh, this is great. I love it. I love it.
Well, the reason why I wanted to do it, man, is because when you go back to you guys' show, Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito, like the magic that you guys had, it was live, it was unfiltered. Did you guys plan any of those type of shows?
Yeah. Well, a lot of pre-production went into our weekly program, for those who don't know, which was on WKCR 89.9 FM every Thursday from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So it was not an ideal time slot. I directed, produced, wrote, music supervised a documentary about it titled Stretch and Bobbito, Radio That Changed Lives, back in 2015. It's actually the 10th anniversary. We'll be organizing some screenings in New York before the end of the year to celebrate that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of work went into it. I was listening to demos, and Stretch was like tracking down unreleased records. We were both dealing with a lot of promoters at record labels and, a ton of unsigned artists. I was hosting unsigned artist showcases at the New York Poets Cafe, Lyricist Lounge. I was writing about unsigned artists and rap pages. I was playing demos in Vibe Magazine, my monthly column. Eventually I opened up a store in 1996 called Footwork. I was selling independently released 12 inches by up and coming artists. So there was a whole ecosystem in the 90s that fed the talent for the show. So yes, we were as loose as it came, and a lot of existing personalities looked at us as sort of rebellious in a lot of ways for the era. Because we weren't trying to groom ourselves to be on commercial radio. We were just trying to have fun for 4 hours, and we didn't have to play commercials. So it was like, we were like the outlaws, I guess, if you will, of the era. And that's what really helped amplify and elevate our ability to reach people globally, because it was just such a curveball to what had existed in the past, all of which helped shape how we approached doing radio. And then as we got comfortable, we just kind of like found our own groove with it. And 2023, the National Association of Broadcasters Radio Hall of Fame inducted us. And it was great. You know, both Stretch and I were highly honored by that, for sure.
Did you know?
And that's it. That's a great interview. I'm sorry, Kelly. I'm not allowing you to ask questions because I do what you do. I've been hosting for 35 years, so I often, a lot of people, in the press world, they're like, "Yo, you answered like 5 questions in one answer." I'm like, "I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to do your job." But
No, I mean, that's what the show is about. The show is about you, man. I mean, my dad, when I first started this show 5 years ago, he said, make sure that you honor the people and it not be about who you are. It's about who they are. Did you understand, Bobbito, did you understand what was happening at the time? Or are you just so focused on mastering your craft that you're just in it?
yeah, I mean, I get asked that question a lot by people, and you have to understand the context. When me and Stretch got on the radio in 1990, it was maybe a handful of artists who had gone platinum. The most of the successful groups that we think of, like the EPMD, Gangstar, Main Source, Eric B. and Rakim, most of them were selling like 500,000 records, 500,000, or selling 200,000 or 300,000. That was like thought of as like a very successful release. And so, a lot of the unsigned artists that were coming through our doors, 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, now they're the new crop of artists, but they're going like platinum, multi-platinum, quadruple platinum. Biggie becomes the first artist to sell 10 million. And that was just unprecedented. So, to think of it in context, no, we didn't know who any of these artists were going to become, because there was, a whole group of MCs, both men and women, who came through and destroyed it, and nothing ever came of their careers. So it was like, you just didn't know. There was no guarantee that anybody who was talented was actually going to get a record deal and then actually sell records, right? So it was like multiple tiers, And for some artists, like Curious, for example, who I wound up mentoring, and I executive produced his debut album on Columbia. For him, just the idea of being on the radio with me and Stretch was like, that was it. That was the ultimate. There were a lot of MCs who said like, "Yo, like my goal in life is to be on your show." That was it. Nothing more, nothing less. And so that was the beauty of our show as well, because it was very innocent. Artists came up there not to promote their albums, but to flex their skills. And we had a highly intelligent, super high IQ audience who just absorbed all of it and then spread it around the world.
The documentary, I have to tell you, you did such a phenomenal job. The storytelling in it, and one of the things that stuck out to me was the yo 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 yo. Help me with this one. And did you see, like, say when Biggie came in, and you could talk about that yo 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 yo, but when he came in, did you see the fact that it was going to go? Did you see that much difference in him? Because he actually got beat at that time in that rap battle. Am I correct?
He did. And I'll say again, like, we had no idea how big any of these artists were going to become. I mean, sure, we wished everybody well. Sure, Biggie had an aura around him of success. Jay-Z had an aura around him of success. Nas had an aura around him of success. When they did very well, me and Stretch were not surprised. It was like, that's what should and it's supposed to happen. But you had artists like OC or Cage or, MF Doom, who had that aura as well. And, Doom, it took years for him to catapult to the level of awareness that he deserved and warranted. OC kind of like just stayed underground and was this stalwart personality on that level. But I thought he had just as much talent as Nas, So yeah, I mean, it was just this wild wild west, just don't everything was unpredictable, as were we, like we were two goofballs, being on the radio. Let me also share, Kelly, that
Yeah.
while Stretch and Bobbito Radio That Changed Lives is probably my most known film,
Uh-huh.
I've actually directed three. My first one was titled Doing It in the Park, Pick Up Basketball NYC. That got picked up by PBS, got aired to hundreds of thousands of people, and then also got licensed to Netflix early in their platform. And then my third film, Rock Rubber 45s, was an autobiographical documentary. And I see it as like a sibling project to my current memoir, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong, in which I'm the protagonist. I'm like with Stretch and Bobbito, I'm telling my story, Stretch's story. I'm telling the narrative of our artists, and I'm also sharing the experiences of our audience. So I'm juggling, right, three main characters there: the audience, the artist, and me and Stretch. Right. As the director, I have to find a balance. Right.
Yeah.
But with Rock Rubber 45s, that's my autobiographical documentary. I'm still telling the story of other people as they interact with me, but I'm the catalyst behind it, and it's actually my favorite film, and it's the least viewed of the three. But that happens, Sometimes you have these gems in your intellectual property, and maybe it's waiting for the right time, and it'll resurface maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Still a beautiful film. I still stand by all three of my films. I'm very very proud that I was able to say I was a filmmaker for a good decade. And I've moved on and done a ton of other projects since. I currently have a clothing brand. As you can see, this is one of my uh, designs from my debut collection. This is my
Yeah.
hand lettering and my illustration. That's me over there, looking my self portrait, looking bald, and you know, and I just continue to try to be creative, Kelly, just like I was in the '90s, and I'm thankful for people like yourself and others who continue to introduce what me and Stretch did to new generations and uh, and refreshed audiences. But I'm not stuck in the '90s either. Like I have a whole life of basketball. I run a tournament in 30 international locations every summer called FC21. It's 1v5, and very proud of that as well. And I've been doing that for 12 years now. So it's life has so much fruit to pick off the tree, and I'm just going to keep on reaching. Wow, I just came up with that. I might have to coin that phrase
You
and
need
use
to
that.
put that one on a shirt, Bobbito.
Yeah. Life has so much fruit. Life has so much.
Well,
I'm gonna keep
let's
on
go down
reaching.
that rabbit hole, because I think the thing that inspired me most, more than anything, any of the accomplishment parts, which I mean, literally, we could list those out for 1,000 years. But the thing that impressed me the most, Bobbito, was you were so focused on playing basketball when you were a kid, and then your dream of going to the NBA didn't become a reality, but you didn't allow that to stop you. What helped you with that type of mentality and heart set and gave you the permission to say, like, oh, I can shift and be okay with that, and maybe you don't hit
Yeah,
exactly what you thought
yeah,
was going to be your number one, but it was so much more in your life.
absolutely. And those are called life lessons, right? And we learned them early on. And I have to say, I was blessed with the wisdom to really make that a cornerstone of how I approach life, right? I've made some amazing pivots. I've left the largest uh, record label at the time. I left Def Jam in 1993. I left Vibe Magazine in 2004. I left Hot 97 in 1998. And each of those were like number one for their industry in the world. Hot 97 was the number one station in New York. I left it. Vibe Magazine was the number one publication for urban culture. I left it. Def Jam was the number one record label in the world for, uh, you know, rap music, and I left it. And and don't have any regrets whatsoever, because I live a life where I want creative control. I don't want to compromise myself. I want to be happy and find joy in the projects that I put my hands into. And yeah, I learned that lesson very early on. And luckily I have something called wisdom, where I was able to, like, because people learn lessons and they make the same mistakes over and over again. Right. So, you know, yeah, basketball, on an NBA level, that dream disappeared and evaporated by age 14. It was just kind of like, we all kind of dreamed of being an NBA, and it's like, oh wow, like people are really strong, really fast, and incredibly gifted with skills that I don't have, and I can try my best to become the best ball player possible, but I have to be realistic that the NBA is not a route for me.
Yeah.
But you aim high, like the title to my kids' book, Aim High, Little Giant, Aim High, which I wrote in 2022, released in 2023. And you miss the mark, but you still wind up hitting a high resonance, with something else that you may not have expected, and that's how my life turned out. I wanted to play professional basketball in Puerto Rico in 1987. By virtue of my grit, I didn't quit. I stuck with the sport that elevated my soul, and I still do. I'm age 59. I'm still trying to be the best ball player I can possibly be. So, yeah, it's a beautiful journey, and I felt like I documented it well in my memoir, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong, which is available at your finer booksellers online and brick and mortar mom and pops as well, if they know what time it is and they stock it. Got a big up Edge of Sports / Akashic, wonderful publishers to work with, indie as well. So yeah, man, life is full of surprises.
How did your mom, I saw the relationship, and watching a documentary with you and Stretch, watching that one. Probably my favorite scene was when you were in the beauty shop with your mom, and your mom is not looking at you as this legendary icon as moms do. They look at you as like, I'm just proud of you, son. And
Yeah. Yeah.
what were some of the lessons that mom kind of instilled in you, whether it was said or not said, that helped you along on your journey?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, like, the last question that you asked, I actually thought of my mom, right? And then I didn't want to mentioning her, but absolutely, my mother gave me the hustle gene. Real, because she used to cut hair she still cuts hair.
Yeah.
She still cuts hair in her 80s. But when she was working at the beauty parlor, she was selling coquito around the holidays. She was crocheting. She used to have her sewing machine, and she made like wedding dresses for my cousins. I mean, my mom was just so talented, right? Like, and she could cook her ass off. My mom could have easily opened up a restaurant, easily, and would have like crushed it. I mean, who knows if she might have had like 500 locations around the world, but she was happy to cut hair. That was her calling. And so, but no, I definitely took a chip off of my mom's, shoulder, and was like, oh, word, like I don't have to just do one thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a DJ, right? I'm a ball player. I'm an author. I'm a TV, radio, podcast personality. I'm a former trainer. I've done basketball performance, tricks like in arenas. I've coached on the high school, college, and pro level. What else? I'm an entrepreneur. Started a clothing line, and I've had 4 record labels that I started. I'm a filmmaker. It's like, that's my mom, Kelly. That's looking at her and being like, oh, word, like I don't have to stay in one lane, or I don't have to be ashamed if I try something else and I'm not great at it, you know, it's like, case in point, like my clothing line, like this is my hand lettering, and I'm cool with Hayes and Lee Quinones and Trike One and Jose Parla and Trap and Alice Mizrahi. I mean, I'm around legends in the art world.
Yeah.
Legends, you know, Futura, these are all friends of mine. So who am I to do hand lettering and illustration on a t-shirt? Like, it's like, gosh, you know, I hope they don't make fun of me. But it's like, so what? Everybody has a hand and can hold, and not everybody, not actually, I shouldn't say that. Many people have hands,
Yeah.
right? And because I have friends who are
Yeah.
amputated, you know, limbs. And who's to say I can't express myself? I don't have to be Da Vinci, you know, could just be me, right? And I could accept myself and hope that others, and that's my clothing brand, you know, that it's this very much like this, like I see other clothing lines like going like AI, you know, I'm like, nah, we're just gonna do this by hand, you know, we're gonna keep it like super raw and organic. And that's just who I am. You know, it's a reflection of me.
So when you have, I refer to it as the Midas touch, but my buddy Eric is a partner of mine. I called him one time. He had a business that actually went in the black within the first day. The first day he opened, he profited. And I was like, how the hell does that happen? Right? Because you know, and I know, being in business, that don't happen. And I said to him, I said, you got the Midas touch. And then he just stopped me and he said, I just keep touching. So as an entrepreneur, I think, Bobbito, you have the golden touch. You touched hip hop. You became the voice of hip hop. You took sneaker culture before it was sneaker culture. There's a Jordan 4 sitting right behind me that was a huge thing in my life because my parents, we lived in a double wide mobile home and on the side of the freeway, and my parents saved up enough money to buy 2 pairs, not just one, but 2 pairs in 1 month of these Jordans that we had to have so we could play. When you have that type of Midas touch, which we both know it's just hard work and determination, how do you know when to quit or say or pivot or move away from that thing? Because that's probably one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, let me backtrack on your question, which is a lovely one. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, in my film Rock Rubber 45s, right? Like towards the end, what I did, because I've been doing speaking engagements for decades, right? I've spoken at Rikers Island, I've spoken at group homes, I've spoken at Brown, Columbia University, Wesleyan, my alma mater, you know, I've spoken at Lower Merion High School. I mean, you know, whatever, community centers, basketball camps, like you name it. And so what I did towards the end was I kind of like did a Frankenstein of all these different moments where like I'm just sharing jewels with my audiences. I've been keynote speakers for graduations, et cetera. And the one thing that I think really, if I had to sum up my entrepreneurial endeavors, is like find what's missing and fill the void, right? So I'm not the most talented DJ, but I was able to get booked in 48 countries, 6 continents, because I played music that nobody else was playing. And that attracted audiences to learn, like, I mean, that wanted to learn, like, who's this artist? Who's this? What's this genre? What's this record label? Like, what's, you know? So that's just one example, right? When it came to sneaker culture, you know, when I wrote the article "Confessions of a Sneaker Addict" for the Source magazine in 1990, which got published in 1991, there was just nothing equivalent in media history. I was the first. I am the progenitor of sneaker journalism, right? When the editor there asked me to just write about sneakers, I don't care what you write about, but I was like, all right, cool. Like, he just gave me like complete license, but I was like, no, we're gonna write about this this mentality to be different and to be unique and to be forward thinking and to, you know, all these like little idiosyncratic cultural values that sneaker approach, sneaker people, sneakerheads had, right? And so boom, and that's why that article, like, and then eventually I had my book, Where'd You Get Those? New York City Sneaker Culture in 1960, 1987, which again, like, people had started to put out sneaker books, but no one was writing about the culture, and no one was writing about what I call the dark ages, because the most undocumented period of sneaker history is like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which lay the foundation for what happens to somebody like yourself who starts buying Jordans, right? It's like the pre-Jordan era, So that's that, right? As there's that jewel for your audience. Now, in terms of knowing when to pivot or knowing when to leave, it's that wisdom that I was able to really grasp in my childhood, but then it's also just being able to be a good listener, not to anyone else but myself. I listen to my mind. I listen to my heart. I have a good sense of my soul. So, I write in my journal in my mornings. I do deep breathing. I do my affirmations. I give gratitude, and in those moments, sometimes I'll take a long shower, or sometimes I'm out playing ball, and I'm just shooting jump shots, and my mind is just, or maybe I'm out for a run and my mind is just like deep in thought. And it's like, your mind will generally tell you what's right and what's wrong, unless you've just been like conditioned or brainwashed, to think otherwise, right? I mean, we see that throughout the world. Like, there's some horrific acts happening in multiple countries where people are not being respected. Their dignity is being attacked. Their land, on and on and on, right? And though the oppressors are not listening to their heart, their mind, and their soul, they're detached from it. And that's how we wind up saying they are depraved, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I know I'm getting off on a lot of topics, but for me, I just try to listen to that rhythm of the universe that says, yo, this don't feel right no more. Keep stepping. And then I just do.
So when you have, to be able to do that though, you have to have a North Star, right? You have to have a North Star that almost brings you back to center. What were you filling up on? Like as a young kid, take it back to, early Bobbito. What were you filling up on that was able to be the source of that wisdom, right?
That's a good question too, Kelly. I want to thank you for having me on your podcast, because you said everything that you outlined about the conversation would be is coming to fruition. So you're over delivering right now on your promise. Is good.
Thank you.
When I was a kid, I took some of my cues towards life from Catholicism, which I wound up denouncing when I was 17, 18. I was like, there were certain things about the church that I didn't agree with, and I didn't want to be under the guise of their leadership when structurally and ethically I had huge differences, and so I just, from there I became like just independent, right? Like independently spiritual, I guess, with no dogma, but to just try to be a good person. But I did, treat others as you would have them treat you, be honest, all those sort of things that, from my early learnings, listening to the sermons and stuff, I held on to those, but then stuff that I learned in the basketball court, stuff that I learned in the street, stuff that I learned from friends, family, I took those too. And I just kind of like kept on grabbing these sort of morals and ethics from various people. And I also was able to discern, like, let's take example, Earl Manigault, playground legend, huge inspiration in my life. He made a lot of mistakes in his life, right? So he was an underachiever, if you will. But he was an overachiever in terms of his impact on our community, right? But I saw, like, he was saddened. He lived a melancholy existence because he never reached his goals or his potential as a ball player. And, that was an early lesson. It was like, that's not happening with me. I'm going to surpass my potential as a ball player. And I have, right?
Yeah.
No reason why a 5'9", 155 pound, dude who's not muscular, not particularly fast, and never dunked in his life, goes and played professionally in Puerto Rico, and then does halftime shows for the New York Knicks and Dallas Mavericks and the University of Tennessee and UConn, and and travels the world, and does clinics in Senegal and has a court named after him in Zimbabwe. I talk about all this in Bobbito's book of B-Ball Bang Bang, my memoir. But there's no reason why any of that should have happened. But like your friend who went into black on the first day, I worked my ass off and I deserve it. Right. And so I've created my own good fortune. And that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Is there times when you argue with, when you were talking about being spiritual, obviously having a North Star, having a God in your life, however you want to call them. Is there times where you argue with them a little bit because the principles that you're holding sometimes aren't getting you the results that you want? I would like to think that, well, maybe I'm the only one this way, but I want to seek him. I want to do the right thing, but there's some times where I'm doing the right thing, and then I'm like, well, I need the reward is delayed, and humanly, I get a little, I don't share it with a lot of people. Are there times where you get frustrated with it at times?
I mean, I think I'm a pretty humble person.
Yeah.
And I don't get gassed up on the awards and the accolades and all that stuff. I appreciate them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sure, I get frustrated as any human would, but I have the ability to step outside myself and and just shine light on the blessings that I do have. Right. For example, I haven't done an in-person appearance or traveled in 5 years. Right. I used to change my passport like literally every 2 years because I would just have that many stamps on it. So my life has taken a pivot. I have family responsibilities right now, whereby I have to be mindful of the people that I take care of, and I can't be out there in a way that I would want to. And so I get frustrated with that, because I want to play basketball against other people. I want to, say yes when I get invited to DJ in Los Angeles and Puerto Rico and in Asia, but I can't do that right now. I have to prioritize. And so, that's frustrating. But then I think like I lived a phenomenal life and I did all that already.
Yeah.
So if I'm hunkering down right now and doing what inside tells me is the right thing for the people who I'm most responsible for, right? My co-parent and my son and our son, then that's what I got to do. And in moments of frustration, I just take a step back and be like, whatever, man. Like that's gonna happen again if it's meant to be, and if it's not, then I have all these beautiful memories. I've documented everything. I've been an archivist for all my life, So I got 3 films, I got 3 books that I can look at and say, yeah, man, I play ball in Japan. Yeah, man, I did a clinic in Brazil. Yeah, man, I was a guest speaker in San Jose, Costa Rica for Nike. I've done TV shows, I've hosted TV shows for ESPN. So I've lived a beautiful life, Kelly. I can't complain. I refuse to complain, refuse. I have water. I have blessings. I have access to food, stuff that even within the United States, not everybody has, right? We could think about, lead in the water of DC or in Lansing or was it in Mississippi? People don't even have clean drinking water. It's like just basic. People don't have clean air. So I have to be very grateful on a daily basis for the simple things. Hot water. I've been to places in the world that don't have hot water when you take a shower. And these are people who are, not living in shanty towns or favelas, or I'm talking about like just no hot running water when you take a shower. So when I take a hot shower, I'm like, yes, thank you for hot water. Just simple things, man, simple things of life, man. You break it down, Kelly, like, it's really, yeah. There's a really beautiful chapter in my book, Bobbito's Book of Bibo Bong Bong, where I go to South Africa and Zimbabwe to do clinics with this organization called Hoops for Hope. And they use like donated sneakers and basketballs and uniforms to draw kids to their centers to teach them life skills and HIV prevention, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I'm giving a clinic amongst, like only half the kids have shoes on, and I'm not talking about sneakers. Some of them they're playing ball on asphalt in shoes, because that's just what's available to them. When you have moments like that, you can't really go back home and have the same philosophy. Like right now, I only have like 3-4 pairs of sneakers, 5 maybe. I let them all go. It's like this cool. I'm glad that I did collabs with Nike and Puma and Pro-Keds and Adidas. Beautiful. I'm glad that people think of me as like this iconic figure in sneaker culture. Beautiful. I appreciate it. But do I have to be that person as I approach my 60s? I don't think so. I'm glad that I contributed and made people happy and was able to shine light on the real authentic existence of people, how they moved in the space of footwear. But yeah, I don't have to have the latest release, and I don't have to like wait online, and I don't have to resell. I don't have to do none of that. I did what I did. I'll move on.
So when you were writing the book, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong, how did you come up with the title? And then how did you, like when you have a wealth of stories like you do, I was just listening to Lionel Richie talk about his book, and when he delivered it, had over 1,000 pages in it because the stories in his life. You're very similar, where you could have a story for every single thing. If I talk about hip hop, you got 50 million stories. We talk about shoes, you got 50 million. We got basketball. How did you, first of all, how did you come up with the name? And then how did you choose which stories are actually going to be in the book?
Right. So first of all, and I learned this while I was writing it, like there's a difference between a memoir and an autobiography. Right. Or a biography if another author is writing it. Like a memoir is just one section of a person's life, or one era of a person's life, or one lane. And so I chose basketball because I felt like that would be the most challenging. Everyone wants me to write a hip hop book. I had publishers that I brought Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong to that were like, yo, this is beautiful, but we don't want to put it out. If you write a hip hop book, we'll put it out. And so I have been cornered to hip hop by the industry, and I've always refused that. Right. So I did write about 85,000 words for this memoir. But I didn't go deep into the radio show experiences, and I didn't go deep into my club experiences as a DJ traveling. I didn't go deep into my record label I didn't go deep in, I've had 4 different vinyl record labels. I didn't go deep into, starting the world's first sneaker boutique in 1996 with footwork. I didn't go deep into any of that. I didn't go deep into sneakers. I didn't go deep into music. But of course, my basketball existence is supported by sneaker and hip hop and music and club DJ. It's interconnected. So of course you get those entry points there that any reader who's deep into that, like your friend who knows me for MF Doom, can still enjoy my b-ball memoir, because it's not really a b-ball memoir. It presents as such, but you learn about my identity, my upbringing, cultural values, social justice issues. My book is beautiful. I'm so proud of my book. Proud of my kids' book too, Aim High, Little Giant, Aim High, which is still out there. It's distributed by Haymarket. And that I pushed so much flyness into that illustrated hardcover project that, I feel like that and Rock Rubber 45s, my film, are kind of like under the radar. They might get discovered at some point and be like, yo, like, what was this book? What was this film? Bong Bong remains to be seen, because it only came out like 3 months ago in July. So yeah. I'm hoping that it goes over the radar and sells a lot of copies, and readers absorb the message and are enlightened by it. And we'll keep on pushing it. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon when it comes to publishing, especially with the independent one. So as far as the title of the book, oh, what happened?
We still there?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
Am I still there?
Yeah. Just hold
okay.
on. I had a notification. All right, we'll wrap this up in a second. So as far as the title of my book, Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong, I did my research, I did my due diligence, and essentially most of the titles in that space are very serious. Yeah. And you got the former NBA player or the, NCAA championship coach on the cover, like looking real serious, like, and I want to convey joy. Yeah. The photo was highly curated. It was by David D. Delgado, New York Times photojournalist. He captured me at my tournament, FC21, All World 1v5 at the GOAT, where I grew up. So that was very deliberate in putting me on the cover, holding the mic, smiling, laughing, right? And then I embellished his photo with my hand, and I put some color to it because it was black and white. So I put some color to it. I created some stripes and some circles, and just gave it just want to like give it a little more oomph, and have my personality all over it. So it's a fun cover. People love, they see it and like, oh man, like that's the point of the cover. More so than the description on the back, more so than the publisher, more so than the author. The cover, from my research, is the number one determining factor for whether people buy a book or not. Right. So I was like, well, we're going to pour some joy. And I love alliteration. So Bobbito's Book of B-Ball Bong Bong just felt like, yo, like we're going to just rock out. Yeah.
Bobbito, what's bringing you joy right now?
Doing this interview, my clothing brand, still trying to get my book out there, still doing my tournament every summer, FC21 last summer. We had it in 30 international locations. Next 2026, we're looking to expand to even more cities. And my relationship with the players and my local organizers is beautiful. I look forward to it, and just uplifting, just uplifting communities one at a time, and giving opportunity for people to participate on a global scale. Yeah, man, and just continuing to contribute to my family and my household, and to people who follow me on social media. I did a post yesterday about D'Angelo passing, and it's got like I don't know, like 25,000 views now. It's like, whoa, you know, all I did was just dance and play a song of his that not a lot of people know. And yeah, I mean, people just, so, you know, I enjoy bringing people joy. I enjoy that interaction to make someone's heart feel, you know, resonant. So that's what I'm about. And I just want to be the best ball player, Kelly. I'm going to be 60 in September 2026.
You
And I
still
want to be,
crossing people up too, right?
I just want to be the best ball player I could possibly be, my brother. You know,
That's incredible, man. Hey, let
and
me
you look
ask you.
great, bro. I want to tell you, orange is a great color for you. You
Hey,
know?
I wore my shirt for you today
All right.
because I don't know if you can see it, but it's a guy in a barbershop chair, and he's got Jordans popping out, but he's sitting on top of a basketball. So this shirt, this graphic was one of my favorites because I started out in the hair industry, and so that's where the connection point was with your mom too, and seeing that part of it was incredible.
Nice.
When you are a performer the way that you are, and I mean, literally, like you have gold and you have magic in you. Probably one of the toughest things that I see is that the grace, like giving grace to yourself. Where does Bobbito need to give grace to himself?
I mean, I'm a hard worker, you know,
Yeah.
in my personal life as well as my professional,
Yeah.
right? And I find like in my professional life, I tie the knot on everything. It's like everything's zipped up. People love working with me. Yo, like, you know, I'll carry the heavy load if I need to. I'll do 3 other people's jobs if I need to. If I commit myself to a project, it's like 100,000%, you know? In my personal life though, like sometimes I gotta step back and be like, yo, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Cause, you know, maybe packages come in or, you know, there's dust on my speaker and I'm like, you know, it's like, it's bothering me, but okay, I got other things that I got to do. I'll get back to that dust, you know? But yeah, I mean, yeah, I try to live a beautiful, loving life. I love myself and, yeah, and that's where it's at, man.
You're an incredible example. One of the coolest things. I got one more question for you, but I wanted to speak some life to you because in watching the documentary, studying you and being a, you know, when I say a fan, I don't want you to. I don't know the best word for it, but the things that stick out to me is the integrity pieces. It's like when Meth came in, when Wu and Meth came into the studio. For me, it wasn't about, you know, wow, it was the Wu-Tang Clan. It was the fact that you made sure that people were treating people well. And for me, I want you to know that that was the biggest impression more than any of the music, anything like that. And I love the fact that you're focusing in on the basketball because that's your passion. I started my podcast because of my 2 kids, and I wanted to take iconic people like yourself and show my kids that it wasn't an idol. You weren't an idol to worship. You were just an icon to be inspired by. So what advice, my son is 14 years old. He's into sports, you know, marches to the beat of his own drum. My daughter is in theater and she's 16 years old. She's acting, singing, dancing, doing all this stuff.
Yep.
What advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could call yourself Uncle Bobbito, it would be awesome.
No, I would say pursue your joy at full blast steam, like unabated, unabashed, you know, undeterred, and live, breathe, sleep. I have dreams that I play ball. I had a dream just 2 days ago. I was at the court calling next, and my friend was playing defense, locked up. Like it's here, you know. And I think when you find that little tingly feeling with something, and you're not pursuing it because your parents want you to or your friends want you to, because you really have it inside here that you want to, then I say go at it full blast until it doesn't feel right inside you. Listen to that inner voice, and then you try to pivot, you know. Because not everything's meant to be. And be open to the universe, to what curveballs they throw at you, to land at where you're supposed to be.
Bobbito's book of Bebo Bong Bong, the clothing line. And I tell you, you're humble. You're like, I hope that people get the book. Everyone's getting the book. Everyone's getting the book. Everyone's going to get the clothing line. Bobbito, you have been absolutely phenomenal. I know you got 2 minutes to go and do what you need to do, but I tell you, I'm going to force you to be my friend for the rest of your life. And I tell you, for me, man, like I said, the integrity piece, you doing exactly what you love, even like you stepping away from the things that you stepped away from at the height because you wanted to follow what you wanted to do. I applaud you. You're the man. You're a legend, bro.
I appreciate that. Listen, I'm going to jump.
Yep.
But I appreciate your time. And this was just, I needed this. So thank you for the conversation. All right, my brother. Peace.
All right. Have a great day, man.
All right.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over.